So a little bit about me. I am originally from New York City. I lived there all of my life. I went to university in New Orleans. I stayed in New Orleans for a few years. I started working in an ad agency. It was the advent of the dot-com era. I went back to New York City and everybody said, "You're from New Orleans, you don't know anything there." They just discounted 100% the work, the experience, everything. So I sort of started again. And my first experience with remote work was in about 2006. We were working for Toshiba, and I found a 100% remote team in Vietnam to build the website for HD DVD. That might be why we lost to Blu-ray. From there, what I started to find was you had to travel. So I worked for Ogilvy. I had the amazing pleasure of spending a lot of time here. Some of my best friends, the best work I've ever done was for British Airways and that team. But it meant I was doing 2 kamikazes a week, which is Sunday night, you leave from New York, you land in Heathrow, you go to Waterside, and at 4 o'clock you take a flight home. You then do that again on Thursday. And that just gets very, very tiring, and it's tough. And so finding those types of remote opportunities is very, very difficult. Finally, I got to a point where my daughter was 5 years old, and I had probably spent a total of maybe 8 months with her over that course of that 5 years because I was traveling so much. And the company I was working for at the time didn't understand the value of remote. They kept talking about it, but they wasn't there. So fast forward a few years, I found Toptal. I found Toptal through someone that I worked with at Ogilvy, and I've been there for a few months now, and it's been an amazing experience, and I wanted to share some of the things about Toptal, and I wanted to share some of the just learnings that we have as a company and some of the things that we do as a team. So So again, Toptal is the largest highly skilled, fully remote workforce in the world. So we help clients scale their teams on demand with the world's top developers, designers, product and project managers, and finance experts. We've been in business since 2010, and the core team, so the actual employees of Toptal, they're about, give or take, 500 of us, and we're in over 60 countries. And we're in 21 of the 24 time zones. On my community team alone, there are 8 of us. We are across at any given time, given that 2 of them are true digital nomads. I am working between anywhere between 4 and 8 time zones. So it's a very dynamic team, and it's an amazing team, but it's taken some learning. And one of the things that we always get, right, which is when you start talking about working remote and remote companies, is where's your office? And you get this kind of dumbfounded look when you tell them there isn't one. We have a P.O. box, there's not one physical location anywhere. And then a lot of times I get this next question, which is where are your teams located? And it's anywhere they want to be. They need an internet connection, and they need to be able to log on. And then these other questions sort of pop up. So how does that work? How do you keep track of them? How do you know that they're actually really working? This is the one that I get the most, and I get the most from my former colleagues. And then what's it like to be a manager to a fully remote team? And it's questions that for certain people, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to all of a sudden understand, how do I actually, if I like to give people more professional development and I want to give them a little extra, how do I do that? And if it's not something that you're native to, it becomes very difficult. However, there's so many benefits of remote teams, and I feel like most of you guys probably know this already, but there's no commuting. We can finish our work on our own time. We're not distracted. We take breaks. And most importantly, it's self-motivated. Most studies show that remote work leads to higher productivity and healthier lifestyles. So today there are really three pieces about managing and growing remote organizations. So we're going to talk a little bit very quickly about hiring the right people, some tools and technologies which have already been discussed, so you're going to see it on the other side, and just some of the things that we do to keep team members engaged and connected. So specifically, the first thing is really defining who they are. And the fact is that if you're going to have a 100% remote workforce, your world is your oyster. You're looking for the best people anywhere. It doesn't matter if they're in New Orleans or San Francisco or Serbia or anywhere. That's the beauty of understanding that you're going to get a diverse group of people globally. And at Toptal, we post jobs. So if anybody's interested in the core team, toptal.com/careers. You can go and we post in all over the world. There are really only two requirements. So one, the ability to speak, write, and communicate well in English. And I feel like this is the theme: communicate, over-communicate, communicate. And so yes, language barriers can be tough, but it is the one common theme at Toptal. And there are 3 people on my team who speak 6 languages. And that's just amazing. I speak 1 poorly. And then the second one is that at some point in time, there has to be some type of overlap with Eastern time. Now, I'm actually not following my own rules here. So for the last 3 days, I've been working Mountain Time all the way to GMT plus. So those are really the only two. And so you have to be respectful. And I will tell you that this is one of the most respectful organizations and respectful group of people about time zones. And specifically, if you send somebody a note and it's 3 o'clock in the morning in their time zone, everybody's incredibly respectful and they actually acknowledge it beforehand. So it's an amazing view to understand that you can work across time zones as long as you're knowledgeable about it beforehand. This to me is the most important piece. If you're in an organization, if you're building an organization, if you're thinking about joining a remote organization, understand their culture. And so when I joined Toptal, this was one of the most interesting pieces, which was really making sure that this was at the center of it. During the interview process, oops, sorry about that, little widow, they said it's on our website. They send it. This is so important to us that during the annual review process, people are graded on our culture. You're done by your peers and your managers, because this is where we start to get to some of the big problems. So how do you make sure someone's really working? Because you trust them, because they actually say they're going to do it when they're going to do it. And they wake up in the morning, wherever they are in the world, and they know what they have to do, and they go and do it. They don't wait for somebody to tell them. And they over-communicate, and they're very, very responsible. Again, strong communicator and a self-starter. Specifically, I really want to talk about the second one because there were a few comments about this earlier. We have to talk about what's not working and what is. Because we're remote, you don't have those visual cues, you don't have those water cooler conversations, you have to be straightforward. And for some people, this can be very, very disconcerting to have that kind of forward. And some of that's cultural. You know, Americans, sometimes, depending on where they are very, very forward. And sometimes you're going to be with someone from the UK who doesn't want that kind of forwardness. And maybe you're going to find somebody who works in Eastern Europe who's going to have a different view of it. So making sure that we're being very, very honest and open with each other about how and why things are working. And then last, and this is also key, self-motivation and very little direction. The process by which you're recruiting people is also very, very important. There are multiple interviews. We do assessments for every role. So there are just as if you're joining to become a member of our talent network in one of our 5 verticals, you have to do assessments. We want to make sure that people have the skills that they say. And then last but not least, it goes back to this culture. So making sure that we're being that the culture fit with the person is there. And so this is the last thing that happens before the decision is made whether or not to bring them onto the team. So this is us. So if you're looking to get into remote work, or if this is something that's interesting to you, I think that these would, on the other side, is making sure that these fit for you too. Sometimes we've had people, very recently, for me, who went through the process, and at the end of the process said, I don't think this is the right place for me. And that's important to know on both sides. Tools and technologies. So this is the first job I've had in 20 plus years where I have almost 0 email. And it is amazing. It's liberating. My team deals with a lot of people outside of the organization, so I do have a little and I do have to monitor it. But in no way, shape, or form am I tied to email. And it is 100% communication through Slack and Zoom. Everybody's going to probably have a little bit different view of what Slack is and what Zoom is. And I can talk about our organization and our teams. It's incredibly powerful to be able to have a connection with somebody through Slack and then be able to not get on the phone with them, because that's what most people do. A lot of companies, if they have remote organizations, a lot of my clients when I was at Ogilvy, they were remote organizations. Very few of them back in the day had the ability to do video conferencing, so it was all telephone, and it was all very distant. And by doing this, what we actually are able to do is create a very strong bond as a team. Actually, it's very interesting because Pavel's here, and I got to meet Pavel about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they were back-to-back meetings. And it was amazing because we had been talking on Slack, we set something up, and then all of a sudden, I see him, he's at a standing desk, we're going through, it's a smaller group meeting. And we're engaging, and then all of a sudden, we have 5 minutes, next Zoom starts, he's changed. And he's wearing something much more formal for the next meeting. And it's you take it seriously. It becomes your meeting room where you're actually able to have that same type of water cooler conversation that you have with everybody. So for members of the talent network, one of the things we'll be starting is I'm going to start doing office hours. You know, here's 2 hours a week, you can come, and it's one-to-one because you need to have that type of connection. There's also things that we do just for general lifestyle and engagement. We have a very, very in-depth intranet. It's got everything you need on there. We use Lessonly. Sorry about the fonts here. We use Lessonly as our training platform. We have a few others as well, but this is amazing. And I just went through that onboarding process very recently, and it is more efficient and effective than traditional Fortune 100 onboardings that I've gone through in my life. We also use other tools like UltiPro and Lever for other people functions, but in general, the entire company is set up to support remote lifestyles. Keeping team members informed. There are things such as mandatory company-wide all-hands meetings. There's one tomorrow. There are newsletters. They're about new hires, department news, product launches. We do new training classes every month. Making sure that people understand they're part of a team. They're part of a larger group. And it doesn't matter where you are. The organization does, and the enterprise does an amazing job in making sure that that's happening. There's also things like wellness and engagement programs. This is something new. So we're doing some pilots now internally, and actually it was very helpful for me right before this. The Slack channels really are key. I consider them friends now. They're my friends at Toptal. I meet them through work, and then I engage with them around things that I would around with other people. There's a dad's channel, right? That's it's funny, it's really important. You know, if you're about dogs, or if you like cooking, or if there's a travel. Hey, I'm going for the digital nomads. Hey, I'm going to Zagreb. Recommendations on where to stay, where to work, how to do this. That's all there. pulse surveys, stay interviews. We do these virtual coffee meetups. It's actually really cool. We use Donut. You get paired with somebody, you meet up, and it's a 30-minute, hey, let's talk. And so I've been doing this, and I've actually met our entire finance team. It's amazing. We do co-working and meetup. So these are the types of things as a company we encourage, because we not only have core members, we also have members of our talent network. So as a core team, that's one group, but it's also, we're here to support you as remote and freelance workers if you're part of the network or you want to become part of the network. Community events, and then we do a lot of performance feedback mechanisms. That's very important. I'm always happy to take the feedback, and you have to be able to have that conversation. You have to be able to give it, and you have to be able to take it. So I'm happy to take any feedback after this. Just let me get a cup of coffee first. So real quick, and I know I've done this quickly just from a time perspective, just a few takeaways. You've heard this before, but it can be isolating. The first few weeks, it was great because I could wake up in the morning and take my daughter to work or to school. I could pick her up and take her to her gymnastics class, and then I could cook her dinner, and then I could work when I needed to. But then I realized I actually didn't do anything else but that. I didn't talk to anybody else other than my parents for a few weeks. And it took me a little while to actually understand that you can't do that. And sometimes telling people, get up. We tell people, block off time in your calendar, no meetings. Do your work, go for a walk, eat lunch. People will take advantage if no one's watching. This is something that's just the truth. And so, it's not everybody, but you have to be ready for it. When you're running a real global team, holiday schedules differ around the world. So we, very, very fortunately, we have unlimited days. So we have unlimited PTO, but we sort of have to. And it's different because in North America, we have technically 11 bank holidays or federal holidays. How many does the UK have? How many does Russia have? How many does Poland have? It's going to be different everywhere. So again, understanding and being culturally sensitive and making sure that we've built a system and a company that's able to do that. Time zones, you have to respect the time zones. And that is, it's amazing. It's so impressive how respectful everybody is. It is important to bring people together at times. So before this, I actually landed early, thank you BA in London City. And I was able to get on my larger team meeting call. It's about 42 people. And it was, we were just showing the work we were doing. It wasn't anything major, but it was hurrahs, thank yous, great jobs, look at the cool stuff I'm doing. Actually, Pavel and my team are working with to do a speed coding challenge, which is amazing, and we showed that to the entire team. And all of a sudden, people I didn't know these people knew JavaScript. So it's just making sure that people feel that connection. English is not my first language. Yes, that's you're going to run into that difference. You're going to run into the fact that some people's English is not going to be as good as others. In general, there's patience, and there's making sure that you are over-communicating at all times. And then the worst is when our communications tools fails. When Zoom goes down, I might as well have lost my cell phone. I mean, it's like I took away my daughter's iPad and she doesn't know what to do anymore. It is truly difficult to understand sometimes how to be productive when that happens. We do our best to make sure that we meet as a team twice a week. We have one-on-ones. They have one-on-ones with each other. You have to connect. You have to be able to make sure that you are creating those bonds when you can't do them in person. And at the same point, I'm also very lucky because of my role as a community and as our role as a community team, we actually get to meet a lot of people. So I actually was I just came from Berlin, where I was with Brian and William at CodeMotion, and it's amazing how even after a few months, you really feel like you've known these people and you're seeing them every day. And then this is the leadership. This was part of the team today. It was too big to get all in one screenshot. But leadership matters. Leading a remote organization starts from the top. Our head of people, Michelle, She changes her background where she takes her Zoom calls every quarter. So over the summer, it's a beach scene. During the fall, it's a leave scene. During football season, it's the Dallas Cowboys. I don't understand why. It's important to understand that working remote and being a remote company and leading teams and organizations can be incredibly fulfilling. It's not for everyone. It can be awesome. And if you're interested, so we just launched this last week. It's called staffing.com. So Michelle actually gave this talk at Denver Startup Week a few weeks ago. She had 45 minutes to do it. So, but she actually does have a podcast up. There's a lot of other resources there. If you're looking to build an organization, if you're looking to work with an organization around remote, this is an amazing resource. So, sorry that was very quick, just to keep everybody on time, but it's not bad, 5 minutes or 4 minutes over. Thank you all very much. This has been a pleasure. We're looking forward to doing this on a monthly basis, and I really want to thank our hosts. You guys have been amazing. If you guys have any questions about this, I'm happy to take them. Any questions about Toptal, we're here. If anybody wants a headshot, let me know. If you're interested in joining the Talent Network, also let us know. Pavel's here, I'm here, and all right, so sorry, questions, comments, feedback.